Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This video is the next step in the file folder journal. And it's kind of hodgepodge, so I'll apologize in advance if it doesn't make sense or a lot of sense. But as I was looking at the insert, so for those of you who have followed along, this is our file folder journal, and it's got sections or pieces. It's got the back piece, or the main piece, the base piece is what I was calling it in a previous video. It has the file folder section that is going to be the front. It's got the file folder section that's going to be the back. It makes the back inside cover and the back cover, right? So there's three pieces. It's got the cover spine insert, basically, that goes on the outside so that we can make a tuck on the back. And then it's got the inside. And this inside piece is what I want to focus on now. This is the piece that's going to go inside here where we're going to put all of our signatures. So we don't need these four pieces right now. The focus is on this piece. And I had originally thought I would do it one way, but as I was playing with it, I realized that it made more sense to do it a different way. So I'm going to go with that and see what we get. All right, this is a 2.5 inch spine. These little flaps are to tuck under the front inside cover and the back inside cover. So it's got a 2.5 inch spine here. And I had originally thought that I would put the signatures in at 1/2 inch. And because of the size of the one sheet wonders that I'm going to be including, I decided it made more sense to put them in at 1/4 inch slots. So bottom line is I want to make 2 more inserts, but I'm not going to do one sheet wonder inserts. I want something that's a little bit thinner, a little bit more narrow profile. So what I'm going to do is this. First, I'm going to set up my inserts. And I use, I'm hoping I'm in frame here, I use the grid on my work surface to line things up to make it straight, or as straight as possible. And that helps me to make my lines for my signatures. Whether I'm sewing it in with a sewing machine or if I use a pamphlet stitch, I almost always create lines because I don't have the ability to put them in straight otherwise. This is a white heat erasable pen for fabric. And what I did, I ordered these because I only had black, and black on black doesn't show very well. And it's hard to see where to sew them in. So what I did was I ordered these heat erasable pens. Normally I use, what do I use? I use, not the distress pens, wrong, Corey. I normally use, here we go, this one. The friction, the Pilot friction ones, the heat sensitive, these are what I normally use, but I only have them in black. So I needed a different color. This one got good reviews, so I thought I'd try it. And before I drew on this, I sampled it. I drew just squiggly lines in white, and then I used my heat tool and blew on it to make sure that it would quote unquote erase. And I did this, well, here you can see there's the squiggly lines, and I did this yesterday and it hasn't come back. Now, if you angle it just right, I don't know how well, if you can see that or not. If you angle it just right, you can see where the squiggly lines were. So I want to make sure I make my line straight, don't make a lot of extra. But I'm going to sew the signature in right on top of those lines. So theoretically, they should not show. Okay, because this is 2.5 inches and I want to draw these lines at 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put my signatures in every 1/4 inch. And I didn't prep this to make sure it works. So a lot of times with gel pens or gel style pens, if they're not working, you can prime them on your fingertips or on another piece of paper or what have you. So I just primed it a little bit, and I'm making sure my ruler is straight with the line underneath it. And I'm going to make, and of course it's not working because I said it would work. Oh yeah, you can see it. Okay, it's not perfect, but you can see it. There is my first line. And then I am going to go every 1/4 inch. Now, my ruler is a clear see-through ruler, so I could use it that way, but I find it just easier to match up the top and bottom on my grid underneath and draw my lines. So there's 2. So yes, this is essentially going to have 9 sewn in pieces. I'm going to have 5 signatures, and I'm going to have the 4 inserts, 2 of the One Sheet Wonders and 2 other inserts that I'm going to show you today. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And here we go. Yeah, this got good reviews. Maybe it works better on fabric than it does on paper, but for the sake of what I need, it works well enough. So you can see I've got the right hand side, and then I'll go over here and do the left hand side. Now I just do it this way. I always start in the middle simply because I feel like if I make a mistake, it's going to be less obvious. But now I'm going to have to draw a cross because I am right-handed. Oops, see, you can see there I moved it a little bit. Well, darn it, but that's okay. It should not show once I've sewn my signatures in and I use the heat tool to quote-unquote erase the lines. Oops, okay. All right, there. Again, this is just my preference. However you prefer to sew your signatures in is, personal preference. Once you've done them a few times or played with it a little bit, you find a system that you prefer. I mean, everybody I know says, oh, I like to do it this way, or oh, I like to do it that way. So if you're a new person, try a couple different ways, watch a couple different videos. If you're a person who likes to sew your signatures in a certain way, sew them in that way. It will work. Okay, so there are my lines, kind of a mess thing, but again, it won't show because I will heat it once the signatures are sewn in, and they'll disappear mostly. Those are the 9 places. Now you can see how close together they are, but I did that because like this One Sheet Wonder that we're going to sew in, I want to put it right here. And so if you're looking down, you can see the next signature is going to go here and here and here. So my signatures, I want them to be fairly close because I'm only going to use a couple pages in each signature. That's something I generally do anyway because I make fat pages. But I set this up so that I can see what I've got. Now my 5 signatures will be center, skip, next to that skip, and then the final signature will be closest to the fold. And that's going to be the same on the opposite side. So I'm going to either do my One Sheet Wonders out here and my 2 alternate pieces that I'm hoping we're going to make today in here. Not 100% sure on that yet. And then sewing in the signatures. Honestly, I will probably sew them in on my machine so you don't have to watch that step. And then I'll show you what pages I put in. And I'll do that next time. But for today, I wanted to set this up. So I'm setting my signatures up. And your signatures can be anything you want, whether or not you want to include One Sheet Wonders or something else. So these are the 2 One Sheet Wonders I'm going to use. And now the other thing I'm going to use, pardon me, is something along these lines. Here is my size. And I had these 2, I don't even remember what they were from. I think they were from my husband and I's trip to the Midwest, recent trip. These were left over from, I think they were room cards from our hotel. And then these are bags for either breadsticks or silverware that you get sometimes. I had a whole box of these. I wanted to use those. And then the sweet Maggie White sent me some vintage paper and some gorgeous lace, and just a super kind package from her. And I really want to use some of these papers. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use them in my signatures as part of my signature inserts, or if I'm going to use them as the piece that I make now. But I have a feeling that this piece right here is going to be one that I use to make one of the 2 inserts, just because it's seriously cool. And look how beautifully it matches the cover, the colors and the texture and such. So I'm really thinking I'm going to do that. Also, Tracy Fox from Tracy Fox Creative just created a new entomology passport kit. And I absolutely love it. And I've done several bug journals, and I don't necessarily want to do another bug journal right now, but there's no reason on earth I can't incorporate that. Look at this. This is the passport. It's almost perfect. The colors, the texture, the style. And then this, let's see here. This one didn't print correctly because my printer was offline, so it only printed part of it. But I'm going to use this as the center of a signature to reinforce a page because it's cool. And then I'm going to use that passport piece, and I'm going to use some of these pieces. So if you haven't looked at Tracy's newest kit, the Entomology kit, it is phenomenal, and the colors are perfect for this. So I'm definitely going to use some of the pieces as part of my decoration inside of this journal. Now, I don't know if I'm going to video how I make each page. I don't know if people want to see that. But one of my one sheet wonders, this one here, has bees on the pattern paper. And I really like, I mean, they're completely different. I don't even know which paper company this is. They're completely different, but I really like the realism of the bee and how they go together. I think they go together beautifully, so I'm definitely going to use that. And then there was a moth on this bottom corner that I thought was rather spectacular. And to tie the bugs into this journal, I thought maybe I would put, I'll use some Seth Apter Vintage Beeswax embossing powder, and maybe I'll tuck it under here or something like that. And I thought I'd put that moth on the cover because I really love how the colors and the texture go together. So I'm going to definitely incorporate some of Tracy's kit. Now again, the idea with this particular journal is not make the entire journal start to finish with people, but show how it's done. So whatever theme you choose to use, or whatever materials or colors or textures that you use, it's the construction of the journal that's itself that is the primary focus. And then the pieces that you include are, you know, as always, personally up to you. Whatever you're in the mood to make or whatever you like to do. So construction. All right, before I sew any of the pieces into this, it's just a piece of cardstock, and I am going to put on the back, I believe I put it over here, at least I think I did. Well, maybe I moved it because, you know, I am going to put a piece of, now I'm having to hunt for it, and I'm sorry about that. I am going to put a piece of Tyvek. I use Tyvek, I know I've got it up here somewhere, I just have to figure out where I put it. I am going to use Tyvek because, here it is. I knew I had it somewhere. I'm going to use Tyvek because I want the strength. Tyvek is, oh, for Pete's sake. Here's a piece of Tyvek, right? This is from an envelope, and I cut it off and use it all the time. It's just, oh, here we go. I knew I had more. It's going to make this cardstock sturdier. And it's hard to tear. It can be torn, but it's really, really tough stuff and really hard to tear. And I want to put it on the back of this because once I sew my signatures in, it's just a piece of cardstock holding my signatures into this journal, basically. And then I'm going to glue this inside the cover of my album. So I want to reinforce the back. Bottom line, all that to say, I want to reinforce the back. So I'm going to cut a piece of Tyvek to this size and glue it into the back. This is going to be on the inside back of my cover. It's not going to show at all. And let's cut it there. But it will make it much stronger and sturdier. You can see there's a seam here. Doesn't matter in the least. This is the cover of the envelope. So that's the sticky side. It's a bummer I didn't use that because I could have just taped that down, but that's okay. Actually, I don't love, this is a great point. I don't love, this is super sticky. It's a Tyvek envelope. I don't love going through that with my sewing machine. So actually, I'm glad I didn't do it. There is no adhesive on this at all. I would much rather sew through with my sewing machine on Yoo-Hoo or whatever glue stick once it's dry, because then it won't gum up my machine or ruin my needle. So there is one piece, and then I need to just trim it here. It doesn't have to be perfect top to bottom. It's just going to add a nice bit of strength. Now, you don't have to use Tyvek. If you don't have Tyvek, certainly don't go out and purchase it for this, but you can use a piece of fabric or another piece of cardstock or anything that you've got that's kind of strong and sturdy to reinforce this cardstock base. If you used fabric, well, you don't need to do it. You don't need to reinforce it with anything. So I'm just going to put glue stick on the section that I didn't draw on. And this is going to be inside, so it doesn't have to be glued down perfectly. It doesn't have to, I'm just going to try to put it inside those folds. And I'm going to press it down. Again, I use a ice scraper to press it down. And then I'll let that dry. And then when one of my signatures are ready to be sewn in, that'll just make it a little extra sturdy. So there's that tip. Okay, here are the two one sheet wonders that are going to go in there. And now, remember, I'm working at about 4 1/8 inches, and the height is about 5 1/2 inches, right? Those are my dimensions. So 5 1/2 inches long, about 4 1/8 inches wide. So the two inserts that I make, that I'm going to put in here, I want to make sure that they fit within those dimensions. Now they can be smaller, of course, and I like things different sized inside my journal. All my pages, I prefer not to generally have them the same size, though sometimes they are. But I want this to be, I want to make sure it fits inside. All right, and you know what I've got right here? I've got, this piece was a partial piece. It was only a partial print, and so I'm like, oh man, it's wasted. But it's not, because you know what I can do, and I may very well do, is use this to make my insert. And I'm going to trim these down. Like I told you, I'm kind of winging it. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I hadn't determined exactly what I was going to do yet. So you can wing it with me. And if I absolutely hate it, well, then you'll never see this video. All right, so I've cut those pieces. And you know what? Even though this isn't perfect, I'm going to cut it anyway, because I can use it for something. And I can use it to reinforce a page. Now I could have torn it. I cut this straight, but I could have torn it. And you know what? In fact, maybe I will on this one. A lot of times I will use the edge of my cutting area to tear down, right? Just pull it down, straight down the edge. And then you can see there, it's kind of a torn edge. I very rarely use a tear ruler. So I've got those pieces, and I may, let's see. All right, my total height is 5 1/2, so this has to be shorter than 5 1/2. Now, my mark on my machine is 5 inches, or on my trimmer is 5 inches, because that's just the dimension of this trimmer. So I'm going to cut this, well, I'm going to cut it just, yeah, that cuts in a good spot. I'll cut it at 5 inches. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to be working with this piece. And I'm going to ink the edge here. I have an idea of what I'm going to do. I'm not 100% sure it'll work out perfectly, but we'll find out. All right, so this will be one of my two inserts. And ink the edges, and I'm only inking the edges now simply because once I glue these or sew these pieces in, it makes it a lot harder. All right, so I'm not even going to score it. I am just going to fold it in half. Now I used cardstock to print these because I knew I was wanting them to be a little thicker, so maybe I could score it, but I'm just going to fold this in half and use my bone folder to press it. Okay. And I'm also going to open it up, because when I glue this or sew this down, the very tip of the inside edge is going to show. Just a little bit, just the whiteness of it. So I'm only inking this part so that that whiteness doesn't stick through. And not that I have anything against white, but I just don't want it to be a component, an obvious component in this journal. All right, so those are like that. Okay. There's not really an up or a down on this one. I'm going to give it a little bit of ink here on the front and back. Oh yeah, there is. This would be upside down, and I don't want it to be upside down. I don't mind some things upside down, but other things I don't like upside down. So scoring that. This is going to be another insert. Just like I'm going to sew this one sheet wonder in right here at the seam, I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to sew it right into my signature. Where did I put that piece? I put that piece somewhere. And it was gluing, it was drying. Well, I put it somewhere. It's around here. Oh, here it is. It got buried underneath. So this is drying. I am going to sew this in just like this into my journal. All right. So I will, when I'm ready to insert this, I'll tape this down with some purple tape, right? I'll tape it to hold it in place, and then I'll sew it right in there. I use a sewing machine, but if I were to use a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, it would be the same thing. I would poke my holes and I would sew it in. So it's going to go in just like this, and then it'll close up, and I'll glue it closed when it's all said and done. But what I want to do before that is I want to insert these two little coffee dyed pieces. Coin envelopes, I guess, is what they look like. They're room car key holds. All right, I'm going to line the center where my score line is up with the line on my paper, just so that I can put them in there straight. Now I want to make sure again that my total dimension across is not more than 4 1/8, because that's the, oh yeah, it's good. It's about 3 1/2, so perfect. I just don't want it to be wider than my journal. And this is 3 1/2, so maybe I can even make it come out to here. Maybe I'll make it come out to 4, right? So it'll end right at 4. Sure, that'll work. And then same thing on this one. I'll lay it in, line it up, and have it come right out to 4. All right, and I'm going to glue this down. Put a little bit of glue there. Actually, I shouldn't have put glue right in the middle, but that's all right. I'll wipe it off when I'm done. Okay, now I'm going to, let's see, I wanted it just shy of 4, and I'm going to guesstimate. It's straight, and there we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with the second piece. I don't want it right to the bottom because I didn't make it right to the bottom there, so I'm going to put a little bit of distance between it. You can measure it if you want it perfect. I don't care if this one's perfect. So I'm going to glue that down right here. Okay. Now, when it's all said and done, I will sew this into my signature. This is its own signature, I guess. That's a better way to put it. This is its very own signature, this one little piece. And then I'm going to sew it in and fold it closed and do it. Fold it closed and glue it down. All right, so I've got 4 pieces that are not part of my standard signature, basically. I've got the 2 one-sheet wonders, and now I have this piece. And this is going to be one of the 2 extra pieces that's going to go in there. Okay, and so there I've got my 3 pieces, and I need 1 more now. And I think what I'm going to do on that is use this really, really cool ledger and make an envelope. And this kind of envelope is just slightly different. I'm not going to use a scoreboard or a punch. I thought about using this, but I love this. But I think what I might do is use a piece of this entomology kit, because this is old. I don't even know what year it is. Old German book page. Seriously cool stuff. It's actually pretty sturdy, surprisingly, but a lot of times those are pretty fragile. So what I'll do is I will fold this one in half, and again, this is cardstock, so it's quite a bit thicker. And I will ink the edges, and I'll put this down as a reinforcer. And probably because it's so wide, I will do something like this. Tear it, and then I will ink it, and I will glue it down. Yeah, that'll work. I'll glue it down just like this, ink, glue, and then it'll be a reinforcer to use this inside of my signature. So this is one of the things I like to do with old or brittle paper. I'll reinforce the edges. You can use ribbon, you can use lace, you can use more paper, you can use an extra layer. Here I'm just using a little more paper. And I really love this bug stuff. So I'll do this, I'll glue it right into the signature, or right into the spine, and then I'll include this into the signature and it'll be nice and sturdy. So that's one way I'm going to use that. But this one is going to be an envelope. And I want my total dimension to be, let's see, the booklet is 5.5 by 4 1/8-ish. So maybe I will make this 5 inches. I want the total of this. I really love the date, but it's 1912, but I can save that and use it for something else. So I want my inside dimension to be about 5 inches, but I'm also going to fold over, and I want about 1/4 inch of fold over. So I'm going to make this about 5.5, and it truly doesn't have to be exact, but I'm going to make it about 5.5. I'm going to save this and use it for something else. And I'm going to save this and use it for something else because I really like that date. And this is going to be my envelope that I'm going to sew in. Now again, this is going to be an insert, and this is old, and I've got a spine right here. So what I'm going to do is use another piece of this Tyvek. I could have used another piece of paper or what have you, but I'm going to use a piece of this Tyvek, and I'm going to glue it down. And it's a little too long, so I'll just take a bit off. This is, like I said, winging it, but I had an idea of what I wanted to do. Yeah, it'll fit. And I just wanted to play with it with you because I've been told that you guys like to see my thought process, and so you're seeing it live. Envelope. Okay, so I'm going to glue this piece right here for my center. And this is just my glue paper. Glue it. A little bit of glue, and I'm putting it inside of the envelope that I'm going to make. All right, and I put that away probably. Yeah. Now, if I needed this to make sure it was adhered, and if it was going to show or something, I'd run it through my laminator, just like this, with nothing else on it, and that would heat activate the glue and spread the glue. But I'm going to sew it right here where you're seeing, and it won't show. So I'm going to fold this back over. Maybe. I'm going to fold this back over where it was. All right. And that makes my spine just a little bit sturdier, a little bit stronger. Okay. Now I want this to be an envelope. And how do I want it to look? You know what I was going to do, I don't know that I'm going to do, because I really like this paper. It's really pretty. And the inside or back side is just plain, and that's pretty too, but let's see, how wide is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's a sign. Folded in half, it's exactly 4 inches. So how do I want to do this? Maybe I will do it just like this. Now because I put this here, I don't want it to show, so I am going to fold it over a little bit. Okay, so again, plain as we go. I'm going to ink this edge. You can see it's tearing just because it's so old and so fragile. So this was a good choice. To make it sturdier, I am going to glue this whole thing down because this is pretty fragile paper. I'm going to glue this whole section down. I thought about making this an envelope pocket, but I don't think I'm going to because of the fragile nature of this paper. So let's go like this. And I'm going to glue this back onto itself. I can also reinforce the edge later too. Before I sew it in to my insert signature piece, I can put some lace or something on there to make that a little bit stronger. Okay, so that piece is glued down. Now I'm going to do something a little different. This is going to be, this side is going to end up being shorter, which is totally fine. I inked that edge, and I want the Tyvek to not show. So I'm going to fold this down like that, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to glue this piece down to this piece. it was 2 pieces of a ledger. I don't know if I showed that very clearly, but it was 2 pieces of a ledger that had been taken out of a book. So it had a seam, a signature seam in it. All right, here we go. And again, I tend to put things away when I'm done so that I don't lose them, and then I have to pull them out again. All right, you can see I tore that, which is kind of a bummer, but you know what? It's absolutely fixable, and maybe I'll put a little piece of faux tape on there. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So I'm going to put a dot of my art glitter glue down to hold it in place, and then I have a little strip of this faux vintage cellophane. So I'll just cut off a little bit of that. Okay, and now I'm going to put a little bit of glue stick on there because it is cellophane tape, but I just want to make sure it sticks a little better. And all right, tear managed. Okay, just like that. Okay, now this is where my seam or my signature is, right? Is that where it's supposed to be? No, I can't even see it now. I'm going to use my scoreboard because I can't see where I folded it. And I am going to score because I've got the Tyvek in there. So I want it to fold where it's supposed to fold. Like that. And if it's not straight, that's an easy fix. There we go, the lines will line up. Okay, and I'm going to ink this edge so it stands out. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the other one. Remember, these aren't part of my standard signature. These are the inserts that are special, like the One Sheet Wonders. So this one is going to be opened up here. Oh man, I don't know though, because I really want this to show. And I thought what I would do is sew it in and then glue this down top and bottom. But that's just really too pretty to hide. It really is. So what I may do is just sew it in into here, whichever spot it's going to go. Sew it in and then just use this as because it's a little bit thicker, use it as a page in the signature. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll use this as a page, another page in the signature, because it is very thin. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Sure, that's what we'll do. We'll use that as another page in the signature, just like this, right? So this is not going to be a special insert, even though it's really, really cool because I want all of that to show. So let's go with plan B, and we're going to use these. Okay. All right. I really like these, and I think maybe what I'll do is I'll just use one and fold it over. Oh, I know. Maybe we'll use 2. I'll use 2 and I'll fold them over. They have a little, I don't know, like a coin envelope at the top, and then it folds here. So I'm going to fold it like that. Okay, just like so. Then I'm going to cut this to, again, about 5 inches or so. Doesn't have to be exactly 5, but the book is 5.5, so about 5 inches or so. Sure. I'm going to cut this one a tiny bit smaller, simply because of where my paper ended. I like that, and I want to be able to use it for something else. So it's just a little bit shorter. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to fold this in half, just like I did the previous one. You can use cardstock, you can use lace, you can use anything you've got on hand if you're wanting to do inserts kind of like I'm doing. And the reason I decided not to use this is, one, because I don't want to sew it in here. Well, I do want to sew it in here, but I don't want to close this up. This needs to be just a smidge thicker than a standard page insert. So because I've got this cardstock, or this thicker bit, it is a little bit thicker. Then I am going to glue it down just like this. And this edge is going to show just a smidge. So I'm going to ink that. The inside piece is not going to show, right? Did I want to do it like this? No, I wanted to do it like this. I'm going to wrap this envelope around the edge of this page. Just like this. Do I like the way that looks? Maybe I'll move it up a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'll move it up a little bit, just like that. So that means this edge needs to be inked because it's going to show. And it'll wrap around just like that. And I'm going to glue this piece onto my paper bag. Okay, I'll glue it onto my paper bag. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to ink this side because I know I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Okay, so again, this is in process. Sorry, I wasn't thinking it through. I've got, let's see, this is about a 2-inch wide, sure, it's about a 2-inch wide strip of cardstock or paper or pattern paper or lace or whatever you want. And then this pastry bag or for pastry baguettes or silverware. And I am going to glue this down to this. This is going to be my second insert. All right, I'm going to put it upside down and make sure it's straight on my line like that. And I'm going to use that as my guide. So it's upside down because the paper is upside down. I want my bag to be upside down. And I'm going to glue it on just like this. And I'm going to glue at a 1/4 inch. I want it to have enough to hang on to, but not be too deep because this is a narrow bag. And then I'll use this as my guide, my lines on my work surface, and roughly the same amount at the top and bottom, roughly. All right, so I've glued my paper bag down. I folded over paper bag, right? So I've got this like this, okay? And I glued the back, and now I want to glue the front. Again, just about a 1/4 inch. I could sew this on, and maybe I will. Whoops, I didn't need to do that, did I? Maybe I will. But I want to make it straight, and I want to make it like this. Okay. Now, I've got a pocket here. I'll glue this closed, and I have a pocket here, and I'll trim off this very top piece. No, I won't. I'm going to leave it just like it is. I'm going to leave it just like this because I had an idea. All right, so I've got the front piece on. Now I want to do the back. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I'm flipping it the right way now, just because of the way I glue. This, because I did the right side first, and now I'm going to make the other side the right side, essentially, because it's easier for me to glue that way, which is why I flipped it upside down first. Bottom line is I want to make sure both of my pockets open at the top. That's really what it comes down to. Glue it any which way you like, but I want to make sure that that is at the top. Now this is going to go in this way, so I'm going to make sure that I've inked this edge because I won't be able to do it afterwards. I'll be able to ink the other ones later, so that's not a big deal, but I wanted to ink this one, and I glued it about a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to glue this one at about a 1/4 inch. That was Hannah. She was saying hi. She's our German Shepherd. And about that, and about that. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Close enough. All right. I've got the inside glued down, pushed. If I had my ice scraper, I'd probably push it down, but I don't need to. Okay, and then it's going to look like this. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the front. I'm going to glue that down. And what I will probably do, just because I think it'll be cool. Okay, I've got this side and this side glued. What I will probably do is take some of this extra that I've got, like here's a great one, this little scrap that I have left over. And I'll probably cut that out and lay it on top over the edge of the bag like this. Oh, here you go. just because I have it and I'm here and I can explain it, why not? So I'm going to trim this down. Now that's a little longer than I need, but that's okay too. It can be a little longer. I'll ink the edges. Now, if I were going to sew this, obviously I wouldn't do this part yet, but I don't think I'm going to sew this one. I sew a lot of things, but I don't think I'm going to sew this one. Okay, I sew most things. And then I can lay it down right over the top, just like that. I might even use a deeper one, but you see what I'm saying? I can do it over here on this side. So there's only part of that white. Here, let me zoom in so you can see. Only part of that white number shows because of where I glued this down. So I can take another label, or I can take a completely separate Tracy label and glue it right on top so it looks like they're part of one and the same thing. Okay, so that's how I'm going to combine or marry the two. I could actually, even if I wanted to, take a whole bunch of little Tracy labels and make them go all the way up and all the way down. So this piece, when it's all said and done, is going to be an insert much like this piece, sewn right into its own unique signature, its own individual signature. So I'll lay it into my book wherever I want it to go, lining the center fold up with the top and the bottom. I will sew it in, and then when it's all said and done, it'll be like this, and I will glue here and here to this page. So I will have no, you know what maybe I'll do? Could be, I'll glue this piece down. How do I want to do that? Well, I have options. I can glue this top section down, and then I have a side tuck right here. Yep, you know what? That's what I'll do. Here we go. We'll just do it together. You can do it a couple different ways, but I'm going to glue this top section down to the back, and I'm going to glue this top section down to the back, right? Now, based on, I have this pocket on the top of my pastry bag, and I have this pocket on the top of my pastry bag. And then after I've sewn this into my signature, I will glue here and here, right? And then I will have a side tuck right here into my signature. So, no, wait a minute. Let's see. I have more than I think. Okay. That's not what I'm going to do. After I sew it in, I'm going to glue here and here. Okay. I'm going to glue along the right edge and the bottom edge. And I'll grab a paper clip to show you what I mean. Oh, here we go. Here's a paper clip. Well, that was handy. So these will be glued together. Because remember, this is going to be its own insert. It's not a part of a regular signature. It's its own signature, essentially. So I'll do that. Okay. So I'll glue them together. Then this is sewn in by itself. It's got a top pocket here. It's got a side pocket on the front, right? It's got a top pocket in the center. And then on the other side, it's got a top pocket and again, a side tuck. So this one insert, well, if I do it right, gives you 5 pockets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this will be my 5 pocket envelope insert. Boy, I sure hope that made sense. But it's giving me options. So you can see here, once I've glued it, once it's sewn in, I've got these 2 side pockets. I have this top section pocket where I've sewn it in, and then I've got the bag top. So each one will have 5. So that'll give me a lot of options for tuck ins and such. That's what I'll do. So these are my 4 unique inserts, my 2 one-sheet wonders and my 2 pockets that we just created. And then I will sew in 5 regular signatures. And I don't know yet if I'm going to have 2 or 3 pages for each of the signatures, simply because I don't know how thick those pages are going to be. I will sew them in, and the next video will be showing you exactly what we've got here with the pages that we can decorate, and then we'll put the whole thing together. And hopefully that'll be very soon. I hope that wasn't confusing. I appreciate you sticking with me. If you want to alter it or change yours, please feel free to do so. But I just thought I would share some ideas and create with you on the fly. Thank you all again for your kindness and your support. These last 2 months have been incredibly difficult, and crafting with you really makes a big positive difference. So I thank you for that. Take care, everyone, and happy creating.